able to tell when I start showing you my slides that Sarah and Rob and I didn't speak to each other at all ahead of today. So I'm going to wing it actually. I'm going to whiz through my slides and try and give you a different, and I guess a more intimate and a more local perspective on the issue. So I'm married to a farmer. I'm not really a farmer, I'm married to a farmer. I'm from Cecil Plains, and for a lot of people in Toowoomba don't even know where Cecil Plains is. It's 70 kilometres due west of here, not very far at all, within the bounds of the Toowoomba Regional Council area.
And the best roads too.
Sorry?
You got the best roads around there too, haven't you?
The thing now, and there is no Cecil Plains is better than Felton and all that sort of rubbish. You know, we're talking about the best of the best wherever we go. The thing that's unique about Cecil Plains in my part of the world is, and I'm sure it's the same in a lot of places, that in the Darling Downs area, we are blessed with a mild climate, which combined with the soils that we've got and the rainfall that we usually get, we can actually grow 2 crops every year, and so the Darling Downs generally is world renowned for crop growing and agriculture generally. This is actually taken out of a plane. In the foreground here you can see that there's a paddock with little white dots in it. You might not be able to see it. That's part of my farm, and I guess I'm here talking to you today about CSGs because 2.5 years ago my husband and I were approached by Arrow Energy. Arrow wanted to come to our farm, to that part of the world right there, and they wanted to do a pilot project, which is basically, they think there's gas there. They know there's gas there actually. They want to do a pilot because they want to determine the extent of the gas reserve in the area. So as you can see, it's marvellous cropping country. I would have thought that it wasn't much good for anything else except for farming, but I was wrong. And you know, we'd known about CSG that had been operating further west of us for some time. Arrow actually supplying domestic gas another 20 kilometres west of us into Brisbane. But we naively thought that, you know, that part of the world was so good for farming that there's no way in the world anyone who had any sort of common sense would ever allow mining to happen there. But we were wrong, and you know, we're no longer so ignorant about it anymore. So that's the pilot. That pilot is just the other side of Cecil Plains. That's a 5-spot pilot, very similar to what they wanted to do on our place. So along with the pilot, they wanted to do the 40 megalitre holding pond for the produced salty water. All up, it was a footprint of 97 acres. 97 acres that, unbeknownst to us at the time, would have been taken out of production probably for 20, 30, 40 plus years. It wasn't just a little test that they wanted to run that would last 6 months. Very invasive. But anyway, so as you previously heard too, there are 4 major proponents in the Surat Basin. Surat Basin is a geological basin. It's basically southern Queensland. So Arrow has the easternmost tenure in the area that includes the Toowoomba Regional Council, and so QGC, Santos and Origin are the other 3 proponents. So this is a map showing Arrow's Surat gas project tenure area. It's called the Boomerang. Basically, it extends in the arc that we heard earlier from Wandoan in the north to Gundawindi in the south, and curves right through the inner Darling Downs area, coming out into the Toowoomba Regional Council area. So we've got Wandoan at the top, Gundy in the middle, and you can see Dalby in the middle. So Cecil Plains is here, and the aerial footage that I was showing of their farming country, that's this area here. A zoom-in picture of that one just shows exactly what Arrow want to do. For that entire project area, they want to put in 7,500 wells on an 800 metre square grid. That's a well every 800 metres. With all that, of course, you have the buried infrastructure, the pipelines. The companies all boast about the tens of thousands of kilometres of buried pipeline that each proponent would be putting in. 18 integrated production facilities, so that's to dispose of the water, to pressurise the gas and send it off. So it's not just half a volleyball court well. This is a fairly invasive and intensive form of mining. Unfortunately, they don't buy out the landholders. You have to sort of live with it. Now, the thing worth noting is that those other 3 proponents have already at this point in time received both their state and their federal government approvals. So those projects are green lighted, they are going to Gladstone, and there is nothing we can do about it much. Like, those projects are happening. Arrow, on the other hand, are several years behind the other three major proponents. They are still in the application stage. This year, their environmental impact statement for that large project went public. The submission period has closed. So now what it is, basically, Arrow are digesting the submissions that they received on that project, and they will have to respond to them in a supplementary. Based on all of this information, the government has to decide whether to approve or disapprove the project. However, the way the legislation is written, there's very little ability for state governments to actually deny a project to proceed. The only way that I have been able to determine is if the relevant minister, which is the Resources Minister, deems the project not to be in the public interest, then he can refuse it to go ahead. So we are, at this point in time, engaging financial consultants and hydrological experts to mount an argument that the project's not in the state interests. So fortunate for us that we actually woke up to CSG in a space and in a time where the company hadn't received their approvals. And I think they're going to be up against it getting their approvals if we have anything to do with it anyway. So that Wandoan to Gundy area is 8,600 square kilometres. Is the footprint for the project. So they're all exploration and/or production leases at this time. However, I've heard it from the CEO of Arrow's mouth himself that somewhere between 25 to 40% of all of Arrow's gas in that project area happens to be east of Cecil Plains on that really good farming country. So much so that Andrew Faulkner has said to our community that if they can't come onto Cecil Plains and mine Cecil Plains, the entire project falls over. So it's high stakes for everyone, basically. Now, if Arrow come onto that floodplain, and the overhead photo that I showed you, this was the paddock where they wanted to do the pilot. There's a photo of this sort of part of the well here. That's what it will look like down the track if we have a gas well every 800 metres on that Cecil Plains floodplain. So you can see that even that's a significant impact. But we have to be mindful that it's not just half a volleyball court or half a netball court or whatever it is that we're told. It's not just an operational wellhead. The construction footprint is significantly larger. In our part of the world, we have grave fears that they won't be able to rehabilitate it because of the sort of soils that we've got. But of course, also with that, you have the roads, you have the pipelines, you have the power lines, you have the risers and the vents, and then you have the serious infrastructure with the dams, compressor stations, RO plants, etc., etc. So these, we've seen these images already today. That was taken a couple of years ago. So that's just roads. That's just adding roads to the previous picture. You can't see you'd have thousands of kilometres of pipeline just in that little area there. And that's a Google image of the previous photograph too. So it is a fairly invasive sort of farming, and we struggle with being told or hearing in the media from government and industry that agriculture and coal seam gas can coexist. Now, obviously, no one can deny agriculture can't coexist with a coal mine. There's only one option. You have one or the other. You can't have both in the same place at the same time. However, because industry are saying that they only use 2% of the area to occupy their business, therefore the farmer's got the other 98%, and of course the two can coexist, but it is really not as easy as that. Here's a photo I took a couple of years ago, or it might have been a year ago, in the foreground. This is a compressor station that condenses the gas. They are building an RO plant, and you can see some water storages in the background. Arrow have said that they're not going to build this sort of stuff on the floodplain. The strategic cropping land legislation should prevent it as well, and I think that just the volatility of the soil will make it very difficult for them to do that as well. But this is a massive footprint. We're talking hundreds of acres there as well.
Where is that?
That is at Tipton. Tipton is probably 20 kilometres as a crow flies from my part of the world. It's south of Lake Broadwater. And here we have, so Arrow Arrow were, a couple of years ago, were approved to expand their domestic supply chain. They had run out of storage. These things have been sitting there full of water for a while. So they got approval to put some more of these holding ponds in for the produced water, and you can see that they're under construction there and being lined with plastic. Apparently that's going to stop them from... This is Tipton, or it would be the, no, it's not Dandelion, Tipton, Grassdale. So if you Google Grassdale, in Google you'll get that.
Are they evaporation ponds?
Yes. Yes, they are.
When they evaporate and you're left with the residue of the salts, what happens then? You finish that out?
No one knows is the answer to that. What happens to the salt? As part of the EIS process, the companies are obliged to submit a water and salt management plan, but that's all it has to be. So they can say, we're going to put this stuff in rockets and fire it to the moon, and that's acceptable. They do not have to have a set-in-stone concrete disposal method as part of this approval process. They just have to list a list of preferred ideas and options. So today, the entire industry has absolutely no idea what it's going to do with its salt waste, and at this point in time, they are desperately trying to, you know, use as much of the water for dust suppression, or they're developing new irrigation farms and things. You know, they're just trying to get rid of their waste basically any way that they can. But at the end of the day, they've got a big problem, and no one knows what to do with it. So this is a cross-section through the Great Artesian Basin. So you've got Toowoomba over here and, say, Roma out here. This little bit of green here is the Condamine alluvium aquifer. So our part of the world, we're really blessed. We have this shallow underground aquifer. And it's my drinking water supply. My kids bath in it and we drink this stuff every day. You know, we use it to supplement rainwater. As well as that, the state government basically invited farmers to put down bores and get this water out for irrigation back in the 1960s. And of course, you know, we took them up on the offer. So that's the Condamine alluvium aquifer. Unfortunately for us, and it is a bit of a headache for the industry, this brown bit here, that's the balloon coal measures. So that's where they're getting the gas from. And there are people who've got more water entitlements into it as well. But as you can see, that a significant portion of the alluvium sits right on top of the balloon coal measures without any separation. So, and we have the Queensland Water Commission saying that of all the water that's going to be pumped out by this industry, and we're talking, I think the latest figures I've heard were over the project life of all the projects, 2,500 gigalitres, that's 2,500,000 million litres of water. Half of that water, half of the total water is going to come from overlying and underlying aquifers. It's not actually going to come from the lagoons. It's going to drain into the lagoons because they're going to muck up all the water pressures. So, anyway, so this is, here we go, here's Cecil Plains again. This is my part of the world here. This is the old DPI map, and it's a salinity yield matrix. It basically shows water quality of the Condamine alluvium. And the brightest blue is the best quality water in terms of both its yield and its salt. So fantastically beautiful drinking, it's potable water straight out of the ground here. I don't filter my water at all. It goes just straight out the ground into the bath or wherever, into the cup. So I just wanted to rush through those slides really quickly. That's the last one I've got to show you. But I really just wanted to make the point that coal seam gas, by its very nature, they have to dewater. They have to remove water from the coal seam in order to mobilise the gas and extract it. And that water has to come out of the ground to do that. And when it comes out of the ground, it's put in storages, and then it's supposed to go here, there and everywhere to do whatever. They actually don't know what they're going to do with it. I think the company's hoping that most of it evaporates or accidentally gets tipped into a river or something, I don't know. But, so to bring it back to that Cecil Plains area, I consider Cecil Plains, with regards to the coal seam gas issue, to be ground zero, unfortunately, or the perfect storm, where we have an area that the industry admits has got massive amounts of gas. There's a fault line, a subsurface fault line that's basically causing a thickening of the gas layer and a cooling of the gas there. Abundant gas reserves. And from our perspective, we have the most fragile soils. We've got very high taste soils that really don't take kindly to contamination by salt, and they don't really like being driven over by all the hundreds of vehicle movements as well. We have very sensitive and at-risk groundwater that we're utilising, and by our own admission, we have stretched that resource thin. Like that groundwater aquifer that we utilise was over-allocated. Too many bores were sunk through it, and we have dropped the water level in that bore. But encouraged by government, and basically, my kids are here today, and you know, we as farmers, we want to be sustainable. My kids want to be farmers. You know, when they're old enough to make that decision, I want them to be able to enjoy the benefits of using that groundwater for irrigating, and as their domestic supply as well. So in conjunction with government, we've been working over the last 20 or so years, and we've taken cutbacks in our groundwater allocations. We're at 50% in our part of the world. We took the last round of cutbacks over the last few years preceding the floods. So, and it came at a massive cost. I personally, we had to sell farms because we couldn't access that water. Unfortunately though, the coal seam gas industry admits that it's going to impact on groundwater and water not in the target coal seam. However, the way the legislation is written, they have a fundamental and non-regulated right to take and interfere with unlimited quantities of groundwater in their area of tenure. Not just the balloon coal measure water, but all water. So from our perspective, we've been regulated and we've been cut back to such an extent that it has caused massive financial impost to our community. On the other hand, we have a new industry coming in that is allowed to take and interfere with that, as much of that water as it wants to, and there's nothing anyone can do. Unfortunately, for Arrow at least, they're not going to gain their social licence by, you know, we're not going to tolerate it. Even the latest literature that we got from the Queensland Government only a couple of days ago was talking about the fact that we are still mining this water unsustainably. So you can't tell that to a bunch of farmers that they're mining it unsustainably, and that, you know, we're going to have to continue to take measures, which is fine. We agree that we're probably going to have to be down to 40%, but you can't say that and then allow a new industry to come with unfettered access. It's not going to happen. So my issue at the moment is coexistence. You may have been hearing the industry and government recently saying that coal seam gas and agriculture can coexist. I don't know if that's true everywhere, but I know for a fact that that's not true at Cecil Plains. At this point in time, with the level of risks that our land use and our soils and our water has to CSG, and what we know about how this industry plans to move into that area at this point in time, it's the opinion of my community that the two industries absolutely cannot coexist. So we're at a point now where we are demanding of government, through their newly formed Gasfields Commission, that all of the various studies that need to be done to determine what the risks are, what the impacts will be, and how they will be mitigated need to occur before there's any advancement of Arrow's project, any. And if they advance that project any further without having conducted those studies, then I'm sorry that they will never gain their social licence and we will be climbing drill rigs. Arrow Energy had a signed conduct and compensation agreement, and they were coming into our community only about a month ago to conduct further exploratory drilling. So the drill rigs were coming only a matter of weeks ago. We organised and discussed as a community and decided that we weren't going to tolerate that. We didn't care whose farm it was on. We had decided that it didn't matter whose farm it was on. We cannot tolerate any progression of this activity in this area until our scientific demands are met, I suppose. Anyway, government and industry got wind of that, and the dogs were called off, basically. So that's where we're in a very sort of precarious position at the moment, where Arrow are desperate to receive their final investment funding from their parent companies, but they know that our community is basically saying, you've got to have the science to back up what you're going to do here, or it's not going to happen. So I'll leave it at that. Thanks very much for listening, and please, yeah, keep your ear out, because, you know, watch this space, because unfortunately I think it's going to be a bumpy couple of years in the Cecil Plains region.